So I'm Angela Moles from the School of Biological, Earth and Environmental Sciences, and today I'm going to tell you about a project called the World Herbivory Project. And just in case you're bamboozled by my jargon there, herbivory is just when plants get eaten by animals, and it could be big furry animals like this wonderful giraffe here, or it could be cute little invertebrates like this caterpillar from the Daintree. Now, herbivory is something that ecologists have known about for a long time. If you look in the textbooks back for decades, you can see that we knew that plants got eaten more in the tropics. And this idea that there have been more intense interactions between species in the tropics goes on to our understanding of some other parts of plant biology. For instance, the idea that tropical species are better defended, so with chemical and physical defenses, and the greater defenses of tropical plants and the more intense interactions between species are our main theory for explaining the amazing latitudinal gradient in biodiversity. So that's why there's so many species in the tropics. So this is stuff we've known for a long time, but I realized that actually when we said we knew it and it was in all our textbooks, we hadn't actually tested these ideas. There were no broad-scale tests of the idea that interactions were more intense in the tropics or that tropical species were better defended. So I decided to go out and actually quantify these things to find out how big these effects were. And to do this, I set up study sites in 75 different ecosystems all around the world. And I'll just tell you about a few of them now. So one of my favorites was in Zackenberg in Greenland. This is at 75 degrees north, so it didn't get dark the whole time I was there. You feel like you've gone back to the Pleistocene because you've got these big glacially carved valleys, and you have to carry a great big gun because of the local wildlife. The plants are amazing, but you have to kind of lie down on your stomach to see them. Those are my fingers over there for scale. And these are Arctic willows. They're probably 100 years old, and they're about 2 centimeters tall. And they probably only get to have their leaves above the snow for about 6 weeks of the year. One of my other favorite sites was really different. It was in the Republic of Congo, where you get amazing rainforests. And this is a bai, which is a clearing in the rainforest that's made by elephants going in and just pushing over all the trees. So you can see all the smashed up wood. You can't see the giant elephant footprints, but you get this amazing grassy ecosystem in there. My southernmost site was in Argentina, in southern Patagonia, in this lovely beech forest where spring came a little later than I was hoping that year. I also had sites in neotropics, so this is a rainforest on Barra Colorado Island in Panama, and it's a really spooky place to work because you're sitting there just minding your own business, measuring leaves, and these enormous, great big ships are coming past because you're on an island in the middle of the Panama Canal. Not all vegetation in the tropics is rainforest, of course, so I also included some other types. This is a tropical dry forest. It's a deciduous forest, just like you get in, say, Europe or North America, but instead of dropping its leaves when it gets cold, it drops its leaves when it gets too dry. Another type of common vegetation in the tropics and subtropics are savannas. So this is a savanna that I visited in Xixlui National Park in South Africa. And I also included several deserts. So my favorite was the Sonoran Desert with those amazing saguaro cacti. They actually concertina in and out as they like take up water and use it up during the year as the rains come and go. And of course I had a whole bunch of sites in Australia, including 21 different sites. Now, I didn't do this on my own. I collaborated with just about every other ecologist in the world. I always joked that this was my way of becoming famous without having an idea. I just work with everybody. And it was just brilliant, just like meeting everybody, learning about all their ecosystems and learning, of course, about the cultures and things as well. I was on the road for 2 years solid, setting up these study sites. I don't know why I kept track of this, but there you have it. Slept in 107 different beds. And my results. Now, I can't tell you about the herbivory results because I still haven't actually worked out the answer and I can't find out how to get funding to do that. But I can tell you about the defenses. So basically, remember that we'd always known that plants were better defended in the tropics. Well, it turns out they're not. They're better defended out towards the poles. And that was big news. Like, I was like, wow, you know, I'm going to publish this and everyone's going to be amazed by that. And so I, you know, wrote the manuscript, went out to the journals and just got rejection after rejection after rejection. And they all said, well, this is an amazing study, but we know the answer to this and you've got the wrong answer, so you must have done it wrong. And that was quite frustrating. I also kept getting told that all of the pre-existing research all showed higher herbivory and higher defences in the tropics. And I knew that wasn't the case, because obviously I'd been reading the literature. So what I decided to do, sorry, my slides are all messed up today, is a meta-analysis where I brought together all of the information from the smaller studies that had gone before. And so for herbivory, I had 38 different studies where the intensity of natural herbivory had been measured across different latitudes. And remember, my reviewers kept saying, look, all of the evidence shows higher herbivory in the tropics. Well, it actually turns out that only about a third of the previous studies showed higher herbivory in the tropics. And when we did a formal meta-analysis, there was no significant effect of latitude on herbivory. So that was quite surprising for everyone. I did the same thing for chemical defences. There's a spoiler. Found 56 studies where plant chemical defences were measured across latitudes. And once again, my reviewers were telling me all of the evidence shows higher rates of defence in the tropical species. Actually, it's only present in 16% of the studies that had been published up to then. And when we did the meta-analysis and brought all of the evidence together, we found significantly higher defences in the plants towards the tropics. And that's exactly consistent with what we found in the field studies. So when we published this study that showed what the literature actually said, rather than the really citation bias skew of what people were saying about the literature, then it suddenly became really easy to publish the field study. And between them, these two studies have really changed our understanding of global patterns in plant ecology. It made a lot of people very angry with me, and particularly tropical ecologists, and it also stimulated a lot of people to go out there and prove me wrong. So a lot of people went out there and started gathering data about these latitudinal gradients, and it's been really satisfying because they keep finding what I found. So basically, doing a paradigm shift in science is, I think, a little like turning a giant ship. There's a lot of resistance and it takes a long time at first. But as you keep going, the turn becomes easier. And we're now in the part where I think most people do accept what I've found. And there's just this real snowballing of evidence from all sorts of different types of interactions. So here's a study from Alistair Poor, who's also in the School of Biological Earth and Environmental Sciences. He brought together data for 613 studies of marine herbivory, and he found that the effects of herbivores were significantly greater at higher latitudes, same as the sort of stuff I was finding. Sichong Chen, one of my PhD students, set up a beautiful experiment where she measured predation on seeds from like southern Tasmania up to far north Queensland, and she found no significant latitudinal gradient in post-dispersal seed predation, which is after they've left their parent plant, but significantly higher pre-dispersal seed predation, which is predation while the seeds are still on their mother plant, down towards the higher latitude end of the spectrum. Okay, so together, those two papers and all of the subsequent information that's coming in has actually overturned our understanding of the factors that shape the way plants grow across the globe. They've also reshaped our understanding of how all these different species coexist, and of course, it means we need another explanation for why there are so many species in the tropics. Thank you.